Hey yarn friends, it's me, Kayla. I'm so excited. We're getting closer and closer to starting our Loom Along blanket. So today I wanted to show you in this second video of the mystery blanket series how to make the circles on the flower loom. Okay, this is the flower loom. It's 12 pegs. It's just a little bitty loom. It has an anchor peg right here. And this particular circle, making this circle, it doesn't matter if you go this way or this way, whichever way you're more comfortable going. I'm going to count this as my peg 1, so I'm going to go this way around the loom. So you're going to need your yarn, your loom, some scissors, a tapestry needle, and your loom pick. So we're going to get started on making this circle. So we're going to leave a slip knot, make a slip knot, and leave a little bit of a tail here. The tail will actually get longer because as we drawstring it, it'll add more to length to this. Go ahead and make a slip knot and place it on the anchor peg and cinch it up. Okay, so we're going to do a drawstring cast on. And so what we're going to do is take our yarn, it's on the slip knot. We are going to pull the yarn in between pegs 1 and 12. This is peg 1, this is peg 12. Bring your yarn in between those two pegs. Go behind peg 1, in front of peg 2, behind 3, and weave it in and out just like this, in front of 4, behind 5, in front of 6, okay, behind 7, in front of 8, behind 9, in front of 10, behind 11, and to the front of 12. So you zigzagged in between each peg. Let me see if I can move my hands so you can get a better shot of that. Okay, so we see how we zigzagged in between each peg. That is the drawstring cast on. So what we're going to do now, we come over number 11. We're going to go behind peg 1 and just lay the yarn flat on all 12 pegs all the way around. You just lay in the yarn. You don't have to pull it super tight, but just lay it on there. Now, when I get back to, I lay it on top of, it's laid out all 12 pegs, past 12 peg. There's nothing on peg 1. Peg 1 has no yarn in front of it. So I take my yarn and I'm just going to wrap it around this peg 1 to kind of just secure it a little bit, to hold it for just a moment. So now we have, on the bottom row, we have our yarn weaved in and out. So every other peg has yarn for the bottom row. And then every peg has yarn across the top row. So we're going to go around and take that bottom string of yarn on every other peg and place it over the top yarn and the peg. This creates a drawstring. Okay, so now we can take all that yarn that we just kind of looped around peg 1 to just secure it. Take that off. Okay, I'm going to hold my thumb right here on peg 11 yarn, just because this isn't secured to anything. Now what we're going to do is take the yarn, come over peg 1, and there's still no yarn on peg 1 except for this first yarn that we're laying on it. Go to peg 2 and wrap the yarn. Let me say that. Wrap the yarn. You're not E-wrapping, you're U-knit. So you just kind of bring the yarn around the peg 2 and just hold it. It's kind of like a U. So we're going to bring our yarn up over the yarn and the peg. and then just go to peg 3 and do the same thing. And you don't have to do this like really tight or anything like that. It can just be held here kind of loosely. So just bring it around peg 3 and to the back and just hold it. And bring your bottom yarn over that yarn and the peg. Peg 4, peg 5. Just do this all the way around. That's peg 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, 11, and 12. Okay, so we're back to in the middle of pegs 1 and 12. I'm going to pull out some yarn here. Now we can just push these down just a little bit. They don't have to go all the way to the bottom. Just push them down a little bit. And now this is going to be the first loop going on peg 1. So just place your yarn over peg 1, pull it around to the back, and just hold it loosely. You see, I'm not really stretching it. It's very loose. If I was stretching it, it would be more like that. So it's very loose. Just holding it there so it doesn't fall. And then bring the bottom loop over the top. And then just go all the way around. This, I'm working on row 2 right now. And so on this particular circle, we're going to do 10 rows. So let's get busy. And you'll get a little faster the more you make these. 10 rows doesn't take any time to make. The other day in the car, I made 6 in an hour. And that wasn't just straight working. That was stopping and looking at my phone. That was talking to Dakota, looking out the window at stuff. So it wasn't like just intensely working for an hour, but I did make 6 circles in an hour's time. And my hands just seem to know when they hit 10 rows. I guess it's muscle memory, but I always stop either on 9 rows or 10 rows. But it would be best if you kept up with how many rows you're doing. And if I wasn't just so used to doing this, I would have a little piece of paper where I'd make a mark so I would know. So just keep going around, doing this U-knit, and I'm still just holding it loosely. No need to do it real tight. Okay, so that is number 10. So we have 10 rows, and we're going to take our working yarn, wrap it around the loom 1.5 times, and then snip it off. Okay, now we're going to do a drawstring cast off, or bind off, drawstring bind off, excuse me. And we're going to bring up the yarn through each loop all the way around. All right, that's peg 12. I'm going to go back in peg 1 more time. Okay, then we just take all the pegs, the stitches off the pegs. Okay, and we just set our loom to the side, and this is what we have. So we're going to stretch out our stitches. Hold your bottom and the top of your piece and just stretch your stitches out. Okay, then drawstring close your top and drawstring close the bottom. So you have like this long oval-like shape. Okay, so one end you might have something that kind of looks like this. That's the end I'm going to use the needle with. So get your needle and your yarn and thread your needle. We're just going to close this end, sewing it closed, and the way I'm going to do that is pull the yarn, go through it, and then bring my needle back through that loop so it kind of knots it off. And that right there, I'm gonna do the same thing with those 2 stitches to close them up well. Okay, so that's knotted off. Now what we're going to do is take our little bubble here, and we're going to make this the top and then this one the bottom. So each little opening, match them up so you're opening on the top and the other opening is on the bottom, and they're matched up pretty good. And then we're going to, we still have our yarn on our needle, so we're going to poke it through the center, and it comes out the center of the bottom one. And we haven't sewed this one, and we're not going to. This is going to take care of it. We are just going to take our yarn and tie that into a knot. After we go through to the bottom, tie the yarn from the top to the bottom. And I'm going to tie that a couple of times just to make sure that it's super secure. All right, now, and this is just going to be our tail. So just leave this one, and let's take the same yarn that's already on the needle. And you see how it kind of comes apart a little bit? We're going to just kind of not really sew it down, but just kind of stitch it down a little bit. Okay, so we want to make our stitches close to each other. I mean, wherever the yarn's at, so we don't leave, like if we went up here, we would leave that line of yarn through there. So we want to make the yarn right close to that. Go in, but after you go in, slant your needle kind of like this. So you're not just going straight up and down, you're kind of going sideways, and that way we don't have to sew quite as much. And then go in the next stitch from that, the next stitch either above it or under, and slant your needle in. And what I always do is I use my thumb. My thumbnail is the direction that I'm going. So again, from the bottom, and I just want to slant that needle in there somewhere. So, just do that a few times around till you get back to kind of where you started from. And then you can tie off. Just pick up a loop with your needle, pull your thread through. Before you pull it all the way through, stick your needle back through that loop to kind of tie that off. Then take your thread and just stick it in a very close stitch and stretch it across on the inside. You're in between the two layers. Stretch it across, pull it through, and then snip your yarn. Okay, I forgot to say that we were going to need a stitch marker. Okay, so this is the top. The side where you have your thread coming out, that's your bottom. So this is your top. So we're going to put a stitch marker on this one to know that this is the top side of our circle. And you're pretty much going to leave this stitch marker on here the whole time you make the row until you add the second row to the first row. And you might want to just leave this stitch marker on here full time. Who knows? You'll see as we get going what I'm trying to say on that. So on the bottom string, we are going to thread our needle with the bottom piece of yarn. And right close to the center, go inside your circle into a stitch and in between the layers, and then come out somewhere around the edge, one of the stitches around the edge. Just bring out your needle and your yarn all the way through. Okay, and that is our little circle. So our blanket is going to consist of these circles sewn together. In the next video, I will show you how to sew these circles together, and it is super easy. So that's our circle, and so remember, for each week, we're going to be making 40 of these circles and sewing them together for our row. And I will be back with video number 3, showing how to sew the circles together.